This is Three Beards Fight Talk with Craig, Chris, and Austin, where you find out your favorite MMA fighters' ice cream and everything else you really want to know because no one else asks the questions that we do. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with me, Chris, and our guest, Mr. Blake Chadwick. How are you, sir?
Doing well, guys. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. This episode has been brought to you, as always, by Brat's Beard Care, premium beard oil that I highly recommend. And we might have to send some samples to you there, sir, so that way you can try that out as well.
I was actually putting some beard oil in right before we came on, so I might need to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, this stuff made here locally in Winter Garden
Nice.
by Handscrafts. It's all natural, amazing stuff. I mean, it is. We tried it, and there's a few of the blends, as Austin likes to call them, flavors. There's a few of the blends that are pretty good. My favorite is the apple butter one, but he came out with a signature blend for us, and that's available on his site too, so everybody check that out. So back to our guest of the hour, Mr. Blake. So Mr. Wrestling Commentator Man, how are you? How did you get into this?
Well, I've been living, which is pretty crazy. Started the journey back in July of 2004. Had an opportunity. I'm from Virginia, from Southeast Virginia, and I had an opportunity locally to get involved with an independent promotion there. I was able to get on an event, like I said, back in July of 2004. Was able to, make a few connections and kind of stayed on with that promotion as I just was getting ready to start college and stuck around with them for a bit, and then eventually kind of latched on elsewhere. And I've had the opportunity at this point to work in 7 different states. I've done national TV, regional TV, pay-per-view.
Wow.
I've had the opportunity to do some pretty cool stuff.
That's cool. So do you want to go beyond, like, into other areas? I mean, or are you just, like, say, WWE? I mean, is that like you're kind of like, I would like to get into that, or is it something like you want to do something else?
I would certainly love to go to the WWE. I mean, that's kind of the end game, the top of the mountain, if you will. To me, anywhere that I could ply my craft on a regular basis and make a legitimate living doing so and not have to do any other odd jobs and things like that, to me, that would be the perfect scenario. So obviously the WWE would be great. I'd be right next door neighbors with you guys if that was the case, probably up there in the Orlando area. But, it's one of these things, whether, I'm sure we're going to get heavily into MMA here in the next, little bit. But MMA is something that, a few years ago, I didn't necessarily look at as an avenue for myself. But now that looks to possibly, be on the horizon. And, pretty much anything I've been able to do, in that front, anything I can get my hands on, I'd be open to be able to do. Wrestling is certainly my first love, but I've done sports, combat sports, whatever it might be. So I think the versatility to me is where you become valuable.
So what initially got you into commentating? Like, I mean, you speak very well. I mean, I notice most commentators speak very well. So what initially brought you to the commentating side? Were you a wrestler? Did you do this? And did you just say, oh, I want to commentate, I like to talk?
It's funny. I feel like when most people are beginning to watch, whether it's sports, wrestling, whatever it might be, they kind of want to be the star. They sort of want to be the champion, the main event, whatever it might be. At a very young age, I've been watching wrestling since the mid to late 80s. I'm 34 years old, pretty much right out of the womb. I was watching
80s,
wrestling.
baby.
Yeah, there you go. So it's one of those things where I guess at a young age, I always wanted to be involved, whether it was sports or wrestling. I started watching sports a little bit after wrestling, right around the turn of the century there, turn of the decade rather. And it's one of those things that I never really saw myself, going all the way as an active performer or as an athlete. I always had athletic ability, but I realized, I guess, at a young age, the very small percentage, if even a percentage, that actually goes all the way So I wanted to find a way to be involved, and I was always drawn to the announcers as well. So I guess that was kind of my avenue, and figured my foot in the door.
Nice. And then Justin's been commenting here. He says he thinks he had the privilege of working with you at Gangrel's Asylum.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Justin. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was. Like I said, you were very professional. You know your stuff for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, Justin. Thank you. I hope to see you next weekend when I return to the Asylum there, as we got a big event coming up, live stream next weekend there from Gangrel's Wrestling Asylum. And, that's great to hear. I mean, anytime that I can essentially, interact with someone that I don't know and leave an impression that I'd like to leave, I mean, to me, that's a success.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You only have, like they say, you only have one chance to leave a lasting impression, and he only met you once, and he's like, you're very professional, you know your stuff. So that's a good, that means a lot. It should mean a lot to you.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, that's my goal each and every time out.
So a little bit about, how is the wrestling thing going right now with this whole COVID-19? I mean, I know we've been interviewing a lot of MMA fighters. Like, are they doing a whole bunch of extra precautions with this whole COVID thing?
Well, I've worked 3 events since, I guess, the COVID era. The last event I had worked was back in mid to late February. And then, pretty much March got wiped off the table. April got wiped off the table. As we entered May, the state of Florida started reopening a bit. Obviously, with the UFC up in Jacksonville, the WWE in Orlando, AEW in Jacksonville, there's been a lot of national attention, at least in terms of the sports world here on the state of Florida. So I do believe in a way that opened the door a little bit for some of these other smaller organizations to have some leeway and to be able to open the door a little bit to perform. I've done one MMA fight to an empty arena. And I've done 2 wrestling events, one to an empty arena and one, as the one Justin's referring to, about 25 fans were in attendance. That was the maximum capacity for that event. So besides that, down here at least, I've been very privileged to work those 3 events. There's been a couple of other events. I know Titan FC's run a couple of shows, or at least one show. I know they had a pay-per-view on Fight Pass. But besides that, I mean, really not much going on here, at least in the southern part of the state. So, most of what's gone on, I've been lucky enough to be a part of, but it's certainly taken a hit on wrestlers, fighters, and anyone involved.
Definitely. How do you feel when you get in the ring or the cage now, and you know that there is no fans, they're not holding no side conversation with nobody, they're hearing exactly what's coming out your mouth. Normally, you might talk during the announcement, but now you're like, everybody's on me now. I get that fame.
Absolutely, it's a very surreal experience. I mean, the old adage, you can hear a pin drop. That's pretty much the truth. It's one of those things where all eyes are on you. I definitely think that in my years of experience of doing television on various formats and live streams with different MMA promotions, whether it be Fight TV or Flow Combat or any of the different platforms. I've been on Fight Pass as well. So any of the different platforms, to me, the ability there where you're kind of playing to the cameras anyway, and you're kind of speaking to everyone at home, that to me gives me a big advantage, because in a way, it is kind of business as usual. I mean, if you stop and think about it for a second, you're just seeing the corner guys. You're not seeing anyone out there. When you say, in the corner to my left, no one's getting loud, no one's getting excited. So there's little things like that are different. But overall, to me, it's somewhat business as usual. And I'm thankful to have experience in different areas to be able to bring that here, because I'd imagine some people doing these events that have only done events in front of live crowds and just for the live crowds, that has to be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one thing that has to be fun, especially the pro wrestling side. Anybody that's done those things, when the commentators make their comments about about the wrestlers up there, that's got to be fun. Like the wrestlers now, they can actually physically hear you. And now so they should be able to turn around and look right at you and like make a comment back.
Well, one thing I certainly pride myself in, at least when it comes to professional wrestling, play-by-play commentary, and even any sport for that matter, is I try to let my passion, just come out through me. I try to let, that inner fan almost be there, and like you're at home calling the action. And to me, that excitement is something a fan, someone watching, can get behind. And I think there are certainly times here in the coronavirus era where we're having events and there's, minimal fans. And remember, a lot of these events with fans, they have masks on. They're kind of sitting down. They're not as engaged as they normally are. So you're in situations where, there might be a sequence of moves, some big situation, and then both wrestlers maybe are down, one guy's down, whatever it might be. And the only thing you can hear is me. I mean, I'm just being loud and boisterous. And I'd imagine if you're in the ring competing, that probably has to throw you off for a second.
Oh, I'm sure. You're used to the person yelling, from the ring on the other side of the, thing. It's like, take him out, take him out, take him out. And here you, it's like, yeah, this guy, man, why is he wearing those pants? Are terrible. Why are they?
They're terrible. But I mean, it's got to be an advantage to MMA and boxing to be able to hear everything, because the commentators, that's their job, and that they're going to tell it like it is. So it's got to be a very big advantage for the fighter. Man, I think he's going to lose this round. So it means like they got to really put the effort in if they're not.
Well, especially from the fighter's perspective, when you're looking at a situation where maybe they gain an advantage, maybe there's some sort of reversal, and they start to feed off that crowd, that build that momentum, the crowd's able to see, hey, he's got him locked in. He's got it. He's hooking the move, whatever it might be. He's got that hold cinched in, whatever the situation is. And you don't necessarily have that same momentum without the crowd there. And I'd imagine that's got to be a little more difficult as a fighter to be able to continue your offensive output.
Yeah, you said Justin was just saying that you played an even like cast role there at the asylum, where it was you were almost part of the script, as long playing along with it.
Well, a lot of times, and that's something that's certainly given me a lot of work throughout the years, is I wear a lot of hats. And, at Gangrel's, at least in this coronavirus, well, most of the time at Gangrel's, but at least, throughout these shows during coronavirus, I'm ring announcing. I'm doing interviews whenever we have them sporadically. I'm the commentator. I'm essentially the host. I mean, I'm doing literally everything but the actual in-ring work. So it's one of those things where, I got to keep it rolling. I got to keep it moving. And, sometimes it's not the easiest thing in the world. You got someone talking to me in my ear. The last show I had a little brief kind of commissioner spot where I had to make a ruling, basically getting some word from the back. So you have to wear all kinds of different hats throughout these processes. Cool. But, it's one of those things that I do relish it in a way, because when I am presented with scenarios, at least at this point in my career, most of the time I have at least been in that spot before.
Now, have you done the McMahon thing and been in the ring yet as a wrestler? Like you get involved, did you have to get taken out, or you take somebody out with the mic?
In my 16 years of being involved with professional wrestling, I've been in exactly one match. I'm sure you all are somewhat familiar with wrestling. I was in a battle royal, somewhat like a Royal Rumble sort of scenario.
Okay.
Had a brief exchange there with a fellow commentator, someone I had a little banter back and forth with for many years, and that was sort of the culmination of our situation. But I had the opportunity. I managed one time. But, I know where my bread is buttered, and, there's guys like Jim Ross out there that have had very illustrious, fabulous career, a lot of notoriety, and exactly. And, he never wrestled. So I figured there's a way to, still have my name out there without having to put my body through hell.
Without having to do the Shane McMahon type thing, go in there and just, get pummeled. Yeah.
Exactly.
Looking at the 35, you're right. 35, your bread is really buttered. I mean, a lot of the greats are going to be leaving in the next 10 to 15 years out of this era of wrestling that we know, and MMA, whatever. I mean, some of these guys probably got maybe 10, 15 more years left, and you'll be right there at your very peak. You'll be, so opportunities is going to come. I see it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And, as an announcer, I have been doing this for a little while, but as you just said, I mean, I haven't even, reached the proverbial peak. I haven't gotten to my prime, if you will. So, you'll turn on the TV, you see the primary guys doing it, late 40s, early 50s, all the way into their 60s. Mm-hmm. So, I'd like to think in the next few years here at age 34 now, I'd like to think I'd be able to at least throw my hat in the ring for some legitimate opportunities.
Nice. Definitely. obviously want to keep talking about this. It's like, because I moved down here from Oregon, so I was in the area for the Portland wrestling. The originals, where a lot of the originals came from. Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, all those guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Portland wrestling's been very big. Jake the Snake, very big up in the Portland
Jake the
area.
Snake.
I will say this, ironically, from late 2015 until around September of 2018, I had a run up in the Pacific Northwest. I was doing regional commentary, and I did some ring announcing as well for a company called the West Coast Wrestling Connection. And they were live every week on PDX 12 there on the Fox affiliate.
Yep, Fox 12.
Yeah, so I am very familiar with PDX in the Portland area and the Washington area. So I've had a lot of great times there over the last few years.
Oh, it was always awesome when they'd go out in the crowd. You know, it was all those metal folding chairs. And so fans would go scrambling as they're grabbing chairs out of there, chucking them into the ring. Yeah,
absolutely. I got to work very closely with another Portland legend, a guy you might remember by the name of the Grappler, Len Denton. Yeah, I mean, got to work very closely with him and Buddy Rose before he passed away. And
Buddy Rose.
Yeah, you know, so a lot of rich tradition when it comes to pro wrestling up in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of people don't even realize.
Yeah, it was a surprising. And then, you know, so like translate, you know, because, you know, we're, you know, you're heavy like MMA. Our stick is a whole little different. I mean, we asked questions like, I think we had one fighter, we got into discussion on who his favorite Ninja Turtle was.
Nice.
You know, yeah. So we're not your typical one where we're like, all right, now let's talk about what's coming up here with Usman, you know, Masvidal. You know, and so what are your thoughts? That's not. I mean, ours are like, seriously, what's with the robe flying over there with the pizza? I mean, that's kind of our shtick, is like how we go about, because we're just like, I'm like, what's he think? Porn star? What's he going for? Porn star, mob boss? What's he trying to roll there with that robe as he's having pizzas, stopping in Italy?
And see, I love that take. I mean, anyone could come on and say, hey, who do you think's going to win? Who's your pick? But to get that different type of answer, I mean, that's the way to go.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you know, so like what I like you is like, so you were talking like MMA. Now, are you looking kind of do something like Bruce Buffer? Like you're wanting to get to that side, or are you looking more like you would like to get into the commentary side, like on MMA fights?
So I've always looked at myself as a commentator. When it comes to wrestling, I've always looked at myself as, you know, I've always tried to fancy myself as, you know, the next generation's Jim Ross. Growing up, that's what I've always wanted to be. I always admired, you know, Howard Finkel, Gary Capetta, David Penzer, different ring announcers throughout the years. Obviously, Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer. I mean, those guys have all had a lot of success and been people that I've tried to emulate throughout the years. When I first broke into professional wrestling, the only opportunity I had was as a ring announcer. To be a commentator in wrestling, there are opportunities, but not everyone uses them. Not everyone puts out DVDs. Yeah. When I first came in, DVDs were the main avenue. Now, now you have streaming. Now you have, you know, major company. I mean, there's a lot more options out there than there was a decade or so ago. So there are more opportunities for commentators. But it was something that I had to start as a ring announcer. And you know, being able to ring announce has really opened a lot of doors for me. I got my first national TV gig being able to ring announce. And then that's how I got my foot in the door of MMA. For about 5 years or so, I've been knocking somewhat softly, increasingly louder at the door of MMA. And, you know, without really knowing people or having a lot of connections, it's kind of hard to break in. And thankfully, I don't know if you guys know Israel Cantu. He's the primary guy, at least in the state of Florida, as it relates to having the cages and setting them up and everything. And
I know the name. I've never personally talked with him or anything, but I do know the name.
A lot of events, a lot of different promotions use Israel's cage and his setup and everything. So most of the things I've been involved with, Israel's also been involved with, but Israel also comes from the wrestling world. So I was able to kind of cultivate a little bit of a relationship there. And, you know, he was kind of keeping my name in the mix for things. They never really worked out. But a guy by the name of Jared Gannum, who I've worked with very closely in wrestling, I had an opportunity doing the production for XFN, Extreme Fighting Nation. That's my primary MMA promotion, my home promotion down here in South Florida. And he basically got me an opportunity to meet with Daniel Kay.
Nope. There we go. He's back.
And, you know, when I met with Daniel, he pretty much said, okay, I'll give you an opportunity. And I think that was November 2nd, 2017. So we're rolling up here on 3 years with MMA. And, I've slowly had the opportunity to work for some other places. I did work at the Hard Rock for a couple of fights there, which is pretty cool down here in South Florida. I think that was shown on some NBC regional TV. And I also, with XFN, worked at the Seminole Casino, Coconut Creek. Did the War Memorial down at the famous War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale. And then actually, as crazy as 2020 has been, I was able to kick off the year working for M1 Global. They had an event down here in South Florida, which was broadcast on Fight Pass. So I was able to do that. And
that's cool.
I've really been blessed with my opportunities in MMA. And it's something that I always saw myself doing announcing, but I never really realized how much I would enjoy doing MMA ring announcing. It's a different enough from wrestling to where it feels like it's a different entity. And I really love it. And the more I can do, I really love the opportunity. And to me, that's something that, as time goes on, if wrestling doesn't really click for me, I mean, MMA definitely is an avenue I want to go down.
Oh,
but in this world, you've been doing it a while. In this world, you could have the best voice in the world, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. In fighting, in any kind of combat sports, wrestling, it's all about networking in this avenue. And you seem like you network pretty well, so that's why I said you're gonna add more butter to that bread, I think.
Well, I appreciate that. I try. It's one of those things where I try to be real as I can. I mean, everyone, you don't necessarily want to be the guy's buddy, but you want to create some sort of relationship with them. And sometimes that's a fine line to walk. But, everywhere I go, I try to, leave, as we talked about before, the best impression possible. And, to me, it's, I don't know if you guys are baseball guys at all, but, if I can go up there and, hit 300, knock some doubles in there, just give that consistency. Just, 300 is a Hall of Famer. So, if I can just give that consistency. Hey, you know what you're getting when you have me do your announcing. I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to do what I got to do. You're not going to have any issues. And to me, I would like to think that it would eventually go far. So it's just a matter of getting that right opportunity.
Yeah, the shift really killed that stat. So we could get into the whole baseball thing too. Like I said, but yeah, I mean that whole, we're never going to see a Pete Rose. We're never going to see like that again because of the shift.
Right.
Never see that again. That is just, you can't get up there and just hit those little line drives like you used to be able to. It's, so I don't know if we'll ever see that record fall because of that change.
I thought, if Ichiro came to America a little sooner, maybe we'd have an opportunity. But him coming as late as he did in his career, I don't know if that will be done again.
So I'm one of the ones, I actually count those stats because it's professional baseball. There's
an argument to be made.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not like he was in, he played for, some little, Saskatoon, rough, the Riders, it just, and he played there. No, this was a professional. I mean, this would be kind of like stats, like you're part of one, and then you come over to Bellator, or it's like you're still fighting in the same type of competition. I mean, it's not like you've got so yeah, we could baseball nerd out all, eternity. Yeah.
Bonus episode.
Yeah. Bonus episode. Yeah. That's exclusive content for later time. But no. So are you going to be watching this Saturday?
Well, the stakes obviously just got raised with the local guy down here, Mr. Masvidal, hopping in the mix. And, I have not really watched a lot of UFC, in the coronavirus era. It's been a very weird time for me in terms of sports. I'm a very massive sports fan, all levels. And that's obviously part of my livelihood as well. I've done live, radio with sports. I've done commentary, done everything. I felt very disconnected with sports. And it's something where it seems like every story, it's this person tested positive or this person's not playing or this or that.
Yeah.
It's very, to me, sports feels very TMZ right now. Like, I don't think we're not talking about X's and O's. We're not talking about on-field, on-court stuff. We're talking about, I mean, I don't want to discredit or diminish anything, but it's essentially nonsense, and I don't, to me, I don't really get anything from that. And
Yeah,
in a
I
way,
can
I've
dig
been
it.
a little disconnected. As much as I've watched and I've still followed wrestling, I'm not as engaged just because there's no fans, and I know they're literally just keeping things going. You know, they're just keeping it moving. They're not really putting their cards and putting the chips in the middle. I mean, they're not really doing what they want to do because you're constricted with the coronavirus. So it's
It's true.
was that
No, I said that it's
I
true.
believe it.
Like I said,
I believe
I watch the WWE, and it's not the same when all of a sudden, awesome, and you go, and there's nothing, crickets, and you're just walking down. You're walking down. The Rock can come out. Can you smell what it just? There's nothing. There's no roar. There's just
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, I definitely have more interest in this fight than anything that they've put out there in the last few months. I mean, I guess they returned in May, and this is, really the first time that I definitely want to see something. I'll probably find a way to get involved. I'll probably find a way to watch the fight, but it should be interesting. I mean, Masvidal's obviously been, probably the premier name in fighting over the last year or so. So
Yeah.
I'd say he's got a big statement to make. And, you guys, you are the MMA experts, and I'll throw this one back to you. I mean, if he doesn't win, what does it do?
Yeah, somebody asked that question. Now I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, now if he loses, they said if he loses to Usman, does he still get credit for taking it on short notice and get another shot? And I was like, yes.
No.
And everybody's like,
no.
well, Usman took it on short notice too. I'm like, yes, but he's been actively training
Right.
for this fight. Masvidal has not.
Nobody told you all them
He looks
donuts
like
during Corona.
he looks like he's been backpacking up in the Himalayas, for a few months. I mean, you see that beard and the long hair. I look. Was he on a spiritual sabbatical for a while? He just came back and found himself.
I mean, that goes with anything though. You would think that when that's your bread and butter. I mean, I'm sure you keep your voice in line. You don't go out and scream, and I'm sure you try to keep your voice in line because you never know when you're gonna get that call. Hey, can you do this? So I mean, as a fighter, you've been screaming for this hype for a while. So what part makes you not train? I mean, you could train with milk jugs in your garage. I mean, so I don't know. That shouldn't be an excuse on why if he loses. But I feel that he's going to get pushed back, and you're going to get pushed back. You're not going to get a rematch or anything of sort real fast.
I think he wins.
That's my take on it. I mean,
I think he wins, though. I do. I think he wins.
I do. I think so too.
It's certainly interesting. And again, on the short notice, and my pro wrestling mind's working here. I mean, it just sets up perfectly for a rematch either way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's one of those, if he wins, it's Usman wasn't prepared for him as a fighter, so we need a rematch. If he loses, well, this was on 6 days notice, he wasn't at where he should have been, we want to, it's like you said, there's a lot of script in there for why this next, Masvidal Usman 2 must occur. Yeah, exactly. Well, sir, I really appreciate you coming in.
But if you ever come to
we
got one request. Can you push us out on your social media? So, got one more request for you, man. Can you push us out on your social media so people can see your interview? And
absolutely, I plan on sharing the whole thing when we're done, and putting it out there, and definitely showing everyone that you guys. I mean, I love the graphics, the setup. I mean, you certainly know what you're doing here, so I'd love to see this thing continue to grow. You guys certainly look like.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's one place that while we're at it, there's a question that was posed what's your favorite ice cream? You got to keep that going.
Now, how basic are we getting here?
I'm vanilla.
You can go.
I am French vanilla with the little specks inside. I mean, that's me. I mean, I just.
I mean, you can go Ben and Jerry's with the moose tracks with the salted pretzel. I mean, you can go whatever. What is your favorite ice cream? I mean, I love it all. So as you can see.
I'm kind of with you. I have such a difficult time making a decision with these things. Like every time I have a cheat meal, it's like I have to have a little of this and a little of this and a little of this. It's like it's so hard. I have to say though, it can be some convoluted brand flavor, whatever, but some sort of combination of peanut butter and chocolate. I mean, to me, that's the mega powers right there. I mean,
everybody gives me a hard time. I'm like, French vanilla ice cream is a blank slate. You can add anything to that, and it is awesome. I mean, you don't You know, you can have strawberries. I mean, you name it, throw it on top of there. You have an amazing ice cream.
I've always I like the vanilla flavor, but I've always just been a major chocolate guy.
Yep. It's one of those, it's one of those things where it's, we kept that streak going, for asking people about the favorite one. I think so far my best one, if you see like the one when we had the Titan guys on, Rodolfo, when he was on, he was talking, everything was healthy. And I was like, so what's your favorite ice cream? Matcha. I'm like, oh my God, man. I'm like, even your treat is healthy. I'm like, you're making me feel like a slug over here.
You said that was Rodolfo?
Yeah. Yeah, Roman. Yeah, he was just like, everything is healthy, and he was just like, yeah, matcha, and I'm like, oh my God, man. I'm like, it's like, do you ever eat anything unhealthy? Nope.
I haven't had fast food in like 10 years.
Oh, and I'll be like, yeah, we're like, yeah, that was yesterday.
Those, but if you're ever in Orlando or in the Winter Garden area, make sure you DM us so we can come have a brew at Cricket Can. Come have a brew when COVID's over. If you're ever in our area, just hit us up. We'll be glad to come.
Absolutely. That sounds great. I definitely do events up in that area. I have friends in that area. So when things are as normal as they can be, I definitely plan to be there more than not. So we'll certainly stay in touch. And again, listen, I had a great time. If you guys ever want to have me back, it'd be my pleasure.
Oh, definitely.
Joining you guys.
Yeah, we always need, we're always occasionally needing guest hosts to come on. So I said, we always like having personalities with us. So definitely I'll mention it to you and see if you can make it on one of those episodes.
I would love it. I mean, listen, anytime I can interact with guys of similar interest that know what they're doing, professional environment, I'm all there. Yeah,
because even right now in the COVID area, we can at least sit on the other side of the table, like across the courtyard. We can like, hey, yeah, so we can at least interact. So.
A socially distanced podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Cheers from, air cheers.
There you go.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I'll get you a link to this as soon as we have it for you there. But thank you so much for coming on. I hope
thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Awesome.
One more thing. Drop your DM in the drop your address in the DM so we can get you some beard oil samples sent out for you as well.
You're the man. Thank you.
Yep, we'll get that to you. Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Stay safe. All right.
Craig.
What?
Craig. Dude, I was on my A game tonight, bro. You can't deny that, brother.
No.
Hey.
I told you it was going to be really interesting. I guess it was one of those.
No,
I was excited.
I didn't downplay it.
No, I grew up. They said in listening to Portland wrestling, and so we're. That was. Like I said, when I saw that he was, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. But everybody, this episode again was brought to you by Bratz Beard Care. Amazing beard oil. Check him out at bratzbeardcare.com. I'm going to bring up the picture here eventually, maybe, sort of, kind of. There it is right there. bratzbeardcare.com. Go check him out. And you use the code 3beards. That's with a capital B. You're going to get 20% off your entire order, along with free shipping on all items there. And Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke, 407. Or go give her a phone call at 407. I don't have that number in front of me. I'm not sure what happened here. Austin usually does it. So anyway, give her a phone call whenever I can figure it out. It's something. I'll put it in the text.
689.
I'm retarded. This is my first show, right? No, it's not. I'm
Yeah. I mean, I've only been doing it a couple shows,
He's a big dumb animal fan, folks. Give him a hand. All right, everybody, check us out on the socials. Go to YouTube. Please subscribe that. Ask friends, family, dogs. Sign them up for an account. Subscribe. Just get the numbers up there. Because right now we have a very hideous channel link. It's a whole bunch of random characters. We would love to have YouTube channel 3 Beards Podcast. The only way we can do that is when we have 100 subscribers. So let's get to that 100 so that way we can have a pretty looking channel logo. So if you could help us out, we would appreciate it. Instagram, we are at 3 Beards Podcast. It's 3_beard_podcast, and also 3 Beards Vault for our crazy conspiracy side. Check that Facebook. And once again, everybody, really appreciate it. We're going to do a quick reset. We will be back here at 8:30. We're get the blankie, get the popcorn, get yourself all tucked in, all ready for fright, because we're going to be talking about the little cryptid creatures called the Pukwudgie. So we'll see you then. Everybody, once again, thank you very much. Have a great night.